Week 9 of the high school football season. Hard to believe we're at this point already, but we are. And now the playoffs, the sectional draw is done. The sectional games begin next week, and not for everybody, but 4A on down will get started next week. My game tonight, Plainfield and Martinsville, had a lot of implications on the line. Mid-state conference championship was on the line. Martinsville really already had a share of the conference sewed up. So, Martinsville was playing for the outright championship. Plainfield win basically would allow Plainfield and Decatur Central with the win tonight to share the title with Martinsville. So, that was kind of what was happening tonight. Plainfield got out to a really good start. It was kind of back and forth to begin. Plainfield led 15-11. They ended up getting a stop on Martinsville, got a sack and a fumble recovery, and then go down and score to make it 22-11. And then, a mishandled kickoff return by Martinsville kind of opened the door there for another short touchdown run. And it was kind of off to the races from there for Plainfield. Ends up, being a 36-11 game at one point. Martinsville's definitely a team that can put points up in a hurry, though. A.J. Reynolds and Hunter Stroud came back and were able to make things happen late in the game there, and kind of make it almost where it was a 2-score game, but they couldn't quite get in position to make it a 1-score game. It ends up 50-37. Plainfield wins it. So Plainfield ends the season now with the 8-1 record. And Martinsville falls 8-1. They were 8-0 coming into this game. So, two teams that are in different classes. Martinsville's a 4A team, ranked number 2 coming into this game, and Plainfield is 5A and ranked number 5 coming in. So these teams will not see each other again. And Tyler Bless kind of joked about that after the game, saying he was glad Martinsville's 4A and not 5A, but because with the way they can throw the ball. Reynolds ends up 404 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. Hunter Stroud, 11 catches for 152 and a couple of touchdown catches. On the Plainfield side, though, they were really able to run the ball at will. Luke Starnes ends up with 162 and 3 touchdowns. Weston Wyridge had 72 yards and 3 touchdowns. Ethan Ellis had a 30-yard run, accounted for most of his. He had 2 carries for 32. Mostly on that one run, obviously, but Plainfield ends up on the short end of the statistical look at it when you look at the final stats. But really felt like they controlled the game with the run, and then kind of mixed in some passes when they needed to. Bryce Sabank ended up with 79. He was only 5 for 6, but had 79 passing yards. He had a 42-yarder to Ellis earlier in the game. So I think it was 6 out of 6. Other than the kneel down at the end of the first half, they had 6 touchdowns on their first 6 drives to take that 36-11 lead. And Wyridge had 3 of the touchdowns in that run where they had 8 in a row. He had the last 3 of those. So really an impressive performance by Plainfield all around. On the offensive side, they did struggle some trying to hold Martinsville's passing game down, but a lot of teams do. It's a really good. I don't know how Hunter Stroud is always open. He always gets himself open. Maybe his best play, though, was on a 2-point conversion where Reynolds had nowhere to go, just kind of flipped it back to him, and a smart play by Reynolds. And then Stroud is able to somehow get around the left edge there and get it into the end zone. Really good player. He's I don't know what kind of recruitment will end up having, but certainly somebody could use a guy like that. He's a tough competitor, really good receiver. Like I said, had 11 for 152 through the air. And Martinsville's got a chance to go pretty far. Their sectional's not strong. They should, probably we check back with them after the sectional title game, and then possibility of maybe seeing Evansville Rights down the road. But first things first, you got to win a sectional for the first time. It's been a long time since I've done that. Plainfield, on the other hand, they'll have a week to rest up and then get ready to play in their sectional. They'll play Anderson first, so that should not be a problem. But then Decatur Central would be the team, and that's the only team that's beaten Plainfield this year. So, Decatur Central and Plainfield, that's kind of the big matchup to look forward to in that 5A sectional. Decatur Central beat them 42-21 the first time around. That was one of those weird Saturday games. I'm not saying that wouldn't happen again, but you never know. Those games are a little bit weird sometimes, and I think Plainfield probably there's some things they don't match up well with Decatur Central on, but I think they can run the ball on just about anybody. I mean, with that big offensive line they have, Tommy Spilker and those guys up front really create some holes for that offense. And Wyrick and Starnes are two backs that kind of play well off of each other. They both do different things as running backs, and you just got to hit the hole and make things happen. Starnes, I thought, had a nice run there late where they were kind of milking the clock and trying to run some clock. Had a 28-yard run for a touchdown. That made it another 3-score game again. Martinsville did come back down and score, but eventually just kind of ran out of time, and just the inability to fully be able to stop the run kind of came back to haunt them. So good win. Plainfield now 8-1, like I said. I'll have more on them, but really wanted to finish this season strong. Last year weren't able to. It kind of not that it fell apart on them, but they ended up 6-4. Weren't playing quite as well at the end of the season than they were at the beginning. So run the damn ball. That's what kind of the motto for Plainfield. I like that. It's kind of old school anymore. With all the spread offenses, they do run out of the gun, but they're definitely a running team. And it works really well for them. Some other games tonight. Number 1, Brownsburg falls tonight. HSC beats Brownsburg 30-23, and was kind of following the Clark Wade was out covering that game for us, and Brownsburg fell behind 20-0. I know they were able to come back, and Rich Torres is actually out there as well for us, so you can check out his story. But I was just reading it here real quick, and it was sort of a game where Brownsburg, kind of like last week, where they fell behind 15-0 at halftime to Noblesville. They came all the way back in that one and won 22-18. This time they got back to 23-all. But then right after that, they got it tied, and then Mason Alexander had a 95-yard kickoff return for a touchdown to put HSC back in front 30-23, and that ended up being the final score of that game. So Alexander's kickoff return turned out to be, the dagger really for Brownsburg in that one. Kean Kelly also had a interception there late, and you can read more about that. Like I said, Rich Torres had the story for us, but just a game where Brownsburg didn't start as well again. HSC had talked about this earlier in the week, but they lost 3 games that were all really close games, and another team battling some injuries along the way. But just a team I think that's going to be a problem in the north half of that 6A bracket, and I think showed why tonight in that game. But so yeah, a really good win obviously for HSC. Brownsburg falls from the ranks of the unbeaten, and probably I would assume will fall in the rankings as well. So we could see Lawrence North or Crown Point potentially move up to that number 1 spot this week. So we'll see about that. Westfield ends up sharing the conference title with Brownsburg too, because Westfield beat Franklin Central 44-7 tonight. So Westfield had no trouble. Another big game, Warren Central 34, Cathedral 26, and I know Warren was actually down in that game as well. So Warren came back in that one to win. And I don't have any specifics yet on that game. I'll look for. I know Akeem Glaspie was out there for us, covering it for us. So we'll see what happened there. Some other games of note. Those were some of the bigger ones tonight. I would say, those are a few that I had my eye on, and obviously the one that I covered as well. Decatur Central, they were able to share this Mid-State Conference title with a 35-3 win over Franklin in that game. So like I said, Decatur, Plainfield, and Martinsville all tied for the Mid-State, which that's a conference that's brought us some really good football these last few years, especially. I think the last 2 years have just been especially good in my opinion. But it's been quite a ride. Greenwood will be leaving the conference, and we'll see what happens in the future with the Mid-State. It's such a good league, and schools that really seem to fit well, playing against each other. So hopefully it continues. It will continue, but just be curious what what the shape of it takes exactly in the future. But yeah, good conference. Good win tonight for Plainfield to pull that out against Martinsville. And also Whiteland, also in the mid-state, they beat Greenwood tonight 48-13. Whiteland jumped ahead 28-6 at halftime. Goes on and wins that in a running clock game. Fishers beat Zionsville 30-6. John Anthony Hall had another big game. Caden Hill had 284 yards passing for Fishers in that one, and that was not a it was a close game at halftime. Actually, it was 13-6, I believe, at halftime. But Fishers runs away to win that one. So, and I was looking here. Hall had 148 through the air. He had 7 catches for 148 in that one for Fishers. So another good night for John Anthony Hall, the Stanford commit. Brebeuf Jesuit 49, Terre Haute North 34. So low-scoring game for Brebeuf as they roll. Geske had 396 through the air for Brebeuf. Heritage Christian beats Purdue Poly 49-6. Eli Nix had a couple of touchdown passes and ran for another in that win for Heritage Christian. Tri-West 42-7 over Southmont. Those are some of the box scores that are in. Again, at IndyStar.com, you can find all of our coverage, and by the time I post this, I'm sure much more there as well. Some of the other scores: Ben Davis beats North Central tonight, 44-14. So they end the season, the Giants end the season on a 3-game winning streak, so starting to hit their stride at the right time. Cascade ends up winning 70-0 over Owen Valley. Kind of note though is Cascade stays undefeated. That's their first undefeated season in their history. First time I think at 5-0 even. So pretty cool for that program to finish that out. Danville beats North Montgomery 47-14. Greenfield Central beats Newcastle 49-14. Greenwood Christian beat Shortridge in a wild one, 33-30 in that one. Lawrence North, I mentioned them earlier. Lawrence North beats Pike 24-14. So Lawrence North ends up the MIC outright champion and undefeated season. So first time, I believe, since 1989 that that team went 11-1, lost in the regional to Carmel. So obviously good finish for Lawrence North, 24-14 over Pike. Pike vastly improved team this year. Lawrence Central beats Carmel 17-14. So LC now goes into they will be 4-5 now going into again 2 weeks for the 6A and 5A. So check back in a couple weeks. They'll be playing Lawrence North though. That'll be always an interesting game. I think that will be an interesting game again. Stalling for time, I was looking at LC. Scored late. They scored in the fourth quarter. Terry Walker at 26-yard touchdown pass put LC ahead in that one to stay. LC also had a 90-yard punt return. Errol Kearns had a 90-yard punt return. That was a game Carmel actually led 14-3 at halftime. So LC did all their damage offensively in the second half anyway. So continues what kind of a hot finish to the season for LC. Continues kind of a down stretch here for Carmel. They have not they've battled some injuries here of late and just have not played as well as they did early on in the season, partly because of that, obviously. Roncalli beats East Central. That's another big one for Roncalli. Good win, 17-7. Zach Dozier had 89 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns, and A.J. Richardson had an 82-yard interception return for a touchdown. So pretty good performance there, obviously. St. Francis out of Maryland beats Center Grove tonight, 48-10. If you're wondering about that score, St. Francis is like a top 15 national team. So if you look at that and kind of scratch your head, that's what that's all about. They've got guys going to Tennessee and Florida and Maryland and all kinds. They've got all kinds of. They're a kind of a national powerhouse. So I wouldn't read too much into that, other than to say that's a very good team. And Center Grove was really up against it. It was 14-3 at halftime, and then it looked like kind of got away from the Trojans there as that game went along tonight. And looking here, I did find the Warren Cathedral kind of a glance here at what happened there. wild game. Warren scored 20 points in the fourth quarter to win that game, 20-11 to outscored Cathedral. So a lot of points in the fourth. I didn't expect this would be quite a high-scoring game as it was. Cathedral actually led 14-0, and then Warren came back, took a 21-20 lead, and then Cathedral went ahead 26-21, and then Warren scored the last. Well, other than there was a safety at the end of the game, meaningless though. It was 34-26 at that time. Then a safety made it 34-28 final. Looking through some of those stats in that game, Anthony Dennison again, another good game. He played quarterback tonight. He was 13 for 29 for Warren for 212. Really, Warren didn't run the ball great in that one. Cathedral's defense held up, but yeah, just looked like a real kind of a balanced game. Obviously, the final score certainly shows that. Jack Lockhart had a 70-yard interception return, for Cathedral, and looks like a lot of tackles for loss for that Warren defense, but did give up some points. Marcus Bell Jr. had a couple sacks. Damian Shanklin had a couple tackles for loss, as did Jeremy Finch. And a couple interceptions for Warren. Madden Berryalt had another one. Amonte Jackson also had one. So Warren gets the win. Warren finishes 8-1 the regular season. Again, be another week before those teams play again in Class 6A. So a lot to look forward to in 6A for sure. That's going to be a lot of fun, man. I don't know how to decipher some of the things that have gone on this year. With the teams at the top of that class, you just don't know who the best teams are this year, which will make it fun in the tournament for sure. Get you quickly some other scores here. Northview beat Indian Creek 48-7. Prairie Meridian beats Mooresville 28-23. Park Tudor 63-0 over Edinburgh. Pendleton Heights beats Shelbyville 42-14. Let's see. Triton Central 37-6 over Speedway. West Lafayette beats Hamilton Heights 21-7. Yorktown beat Mount Vernon 28-27. Don't have a few of these scores have not come in yet as of now as I'm reading this. Monrovia 56-27 over Cecina. LaPel beats Eastern Hancock 35-18. I figured that'd be a pretty good game, and looked like Eastern Hancock fell in that one. 35-18. LaPel wins that one. So that's about it. Let's see. Christmas Addicts beats a Southside Homeschool 64-6. Cincinnati Elder 14-0 over Chittard. That's another one I just came across here on our site, IndyStar.com. Bloomington North beats Southport 48-14. Avon over Noblesville 24-18. Noblesville may set an all-time record for most losses by a touchdown or less. I think that's maybe 6 for them this year. The team that's been so close. I wouldn't want to play them in the sectional, that's for sure. But Avon, another good win for the Orioles tonight in that one. So I think that's going to about do it. Again, my score, I'll have more at IndyStar.com, but 50-37, Plainfield beats Martinsville. Excellent game for the rushing attack. Run the damn ball for Plainfield, and it works tonight. And I think they'll be a tough out because of that. That's the kind of football that wins a lot of times when the weather gets bad and it's a little colder out tonight, but not too bad out. It's pretty nice and a nice way to end the regular season. So, again, thanks for joining me here, and check out all our stuff at IndyStar.com, and we'll talk to you next time.